we want to spend a moment this morning to discuss what's happening at the border. And visiting with us now, immigration attorney and somebody that we have spoken to a number of times here on this show, Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch is with us. Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch is with us on the Quiver River Electric guest line. Kate, we appreciate your time today. Thank you for being with us.
It's my pleasure. Good morning.
Well, I guess the first thing is, where do we stand right now? What is the situation? Because we had been for the last several weeks monitoring what we believe to be thousands of people, a bit of a surge of folks trying to get across the border.
Sure. I mean, I think, it depends on who you ask, but right now we have more people coming to seek asylum right now. I would say mostly Venezuelans are coming at the moment, and some of it seems to be seasonal. Some of it's related to what's going on in Venezuela. Some of it's related to an impression amongst migrants that border policies have changed significantly, and that's because of various things. The biggest impact, I think, was the lifting of Title 42 that occurred in May. But what tends to happen is, as you can imagine, if you're talking about migrants who are refugees out of their countries, they're not exactly up to date on the latest actual news. Information travels by rumor. And so there are some rumors going throughout South and Central America that it is now easier to get to the United States due to policies, which isn't actually based in reality, but there does seem to be some of that going on.
And also I saw, as we look at the numbers, some Customs and Border Patrol has said that they're seeing historic numbers of crossings, and specifically parents with kids, and how it's much more difficult to manage families when they try to cross the border illegally. In September alone, there were over 100,000 parents with kids. What is the situation? What is it like for a parent with children once they cross the border illegally at a point, and then they find themselves in custody?
Sure, and this is something that has really shifted since around 15 to 20 years ago. We started to see more families who were seeking asylum, mostly out of the the northern triangle of Central America. And that's because the children are the most vulnerable to gang violence. So instead of adults fleeing, you start to see whole families come in. And that's what we're seeing now as well. And it is a more challenging population for obvious reasons. Children's needs need to be considered, and it's not appropriate to push children back into the river or to detain them and hold them in unsafe conditions. And so we have to be thoughtful and even more humanitarian about the needs of these populations. I've been an immigration lawyer in Texas now for over 15 years. And in my experience, going through many iterations of different policies along the border, what needs to happen is we just need to have an orderly and dignified way to process asylum seekers, and so that people can present, if they're children or if they're families, they can come to the border and they can say, I'm afraid of returning to my country. I need to be screened for asylum. And we do that. Not everyone qualifies, but until we get a clear, steady, systematic way to screen asylum seekers at the border, we're going to continue to see these shifts and these rumors and confusion and chaos along the border.
Is there, I think I have a number of questions here, and I'm trying to think of which one to ask first. There are people who are concerned about immigrants coming in regardless. There's a feeling that we just don't have the capacity for them. Certainly, individual cities near the borders are being overrun because you can't have too many people in one area, right? You would ideally want to spread them out over the country if they're going to come in here. But does the United States have the capacity to, if it's done correctly and they go through the proper channels, to take in all of these immigrants?
The answer to that question is absolutely. We have more than ever a need for labor on all levels of the spectrum, from agriculture to semiconductor. All across the swaths of the skill spectrum, we have a need for more labor. in our economy, and that problem is only getting worse as our baby boomer population ages. So the theory that, America is full is not based in reality. It's something that has played out over time, over the centuries of our nation. What tends to happen is people start to get xenophobia, frankly. They, it happens with Chinese immigrants, with Italian immigrants, with Irish Catholic immigrants, you name it. There's a period of time in which certain people inside the United States, not any more of those people. We don't need any more of those people. And we're just in another period like that. But the reality is we actually do need more immigrants in this country. And that is true.
We talk about, we've said a lot that words matter, especially the words of our leaders. And I know that there are a lot of politicians who throw out words as political footballs or just to gain points. But you mentioned rumors and how they spread through these countries that are being devastated and how people think, okay, we can get across the border now. Do you have any idea of how are some of these rumors starting before they catch wildfire? Like, what's throwing the spark right now?
Well, this is part of the problem when we mess with border policy. So during the Trump administration, we had the Migrant Protection Program, and then we had Title 42, and then Biden takes office and he lifts Title 42, but only as to unaccompanied children. And then Title 42 is lifted completely because of the COVID emergency, ends this May. But then we have, Biden's new asylum policy, and then we have the border wall. And there's just, it's hard for me to keep up, and I'm, paying attention. And so the result of this, of course, is that people don't know what to expect. And the response to that, right, when we don't have just a simple way of processing asylum seekers ourselves, the United States of America, what pops up is cartels and human traffickers who take advantage of these opportunities of these vulnerable migrant populations, and they spread their own rumors, right? They are, putting out campaigns saying, "Oh, we can get you to the United States. It's only going to be $5,000 or $500." And that's because we as a country have not set clear policies and kept them in place to allow things to settle out. We've just kept messing with it. And part of it is the Trump administration was just, dead set on ending asylum along the southern border. And the Biden administration hasn't taken clear enough action to reverse those policies. And I think my opinion is that is because it is such a hot button issue. We're heading into an election, and no politician, regardless of how they feel about immigration or whether they know that, we need more immigrants in this country, no politician is willing to take a clear stance on that front because it's such a dangerous topic for lawmakers.
So it's really not that either party has done a particularly good job with this. Is that what you're saying,
everyone has done a terrible job.
Okay.
Congress is doing a terrible job. I mean, you name it. No one is doing a good job on setting immigration policy. And of course, we all have different opinions about what that policy needs to be. But I think we can at least all agree that the system that we have had in place now for decades is not serving this nation. And we need to get together and compromise and talk about something to make a fix. And border policy is only, a sliver of it. We have overall immigration issues because we can't resolve the employment immigration system. We can't resolve the family-based immigration system. We can't even do anything about the dreamers. It's just a mess, and it's only getting worse. As I said, with our population aging, this problem is going to get worse and worse and worse. And Congress is going to be forced to deal with the immigration issue. But my fear is that they're going to put it off as long as possible. And we're only going to, live what we're living now, which is this chaos and confusion and misinformation spreading for years longer.
So do you think that either political party or both, deep down, really, maybe they like, and this is my conspiracy theory, that they like that it's like this because they can use it. They can use it politically to get people angry on either side. Is that what's happening here? That really there could be a solution, but both party likes the fact there's chaos.
To me, it doesn't seem like the Democrats are winning out of this, this debate, this battle. So I don't know that they are really gaining from the chaos. I do feel, I'm a Texan, and the governor of Texas is Greg Abbott, and I watch him gain politically, personally, from all of his antics along the border. Operation Lone Star spent $10 billion of Texas taxpayer money. It resulted in fewer than 1% of the border apprehensions. And yet Greg Abbott is extremely popular with his base because of Operation Lone Star, because of the buoys that he put in the Rio Grande, because of the money that he's spending, defending himself in litigation. And he is gaining mightily because of all of these actions. And one other thing that people really don't talk about is that the reason we're seeing these problems in cities around the country, like Chicago and New York City, that are having these issues with immigration, it's not because all these immigrants on their own are making their way to New York City. It's because Greg Abbott is going and finding immigrants in Texas along the border, putting them on buses and sending them to New York City so that New York suffers, so that the rest of the country starts to hear about it. So this is all driven by, people like Greg Abbott, Ron DeSantis, local politicians.
I know there's so many questions regarding the border, but one thing I did want to ask, when we see the chaos and confusion at the southern border, the lack of policy, how does it affect, if at all, either the logistical or the psychological well-being of legal immigrants, those who are trying to become American citizens? Maybe they're coming from Africa, they're coming from Afghanistan, not just the southern border. How is that affecting them?
Well, I think it's human nature for people who have made it into the United States to then other the people who are behind them. And really, honestly, that's every single one of us in the United States, unless we are 100% native or 100% descended from slave populations. We are all immigrants. And so any one of us who looks to migrants who are trying to get here along the southern border and somehow makes them different is engaging in that behavior. And so that would be my message to us, to new recent immigrants who maybe were lucky enough to get across the border or to have a brother or sister petition for them, is to not look at these other people as if they are lower or beneath them or any of that, because it's a knee-jerk human nature reaction. And these, in my experience, the people who get themselves out of whatever situation they're in their country, if it's danger, if it's economic hardship, if it's wanting a better life for them, their children, these are people to be respected and admired because they are tenacious and they are brave and they've been through so much. And I think that we owe them a little bit of respect and certainly dignity in the way that we treat them.
Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, we always appreciate your time. Thank you for visiting with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, immigration attorney with Lincoln-Goldfinch out of Texas, visiting with us here on KMOX. And if you